Hey all, you made it to the end of the week. It's Friday, the 20th, and we're almost done with this first big piece of the tree puzzle. On Tuesday, you gathered evidence from the trees themselves in order to figure out what might be causing the death of the trees. Then on Wednesday, you analyzed that evidence and you narrowed it down. You used the evidence to rule out some suspects and focus in on others. Then yesterday, you determined, what's unique this time around? What's special about this combination, drought and beetle infestation, that these trees in this forest have never experienced before? And you made a claim yesterday about what you think is the ultimate reason, having done research on these beetles. Now today you're going to explain that conclusion to the world and include your rationale. You're going to say, hey, here's exactly what I think is happening and why. So let's before we get into the communicate portion, or today's portion, let's quickly look back at interpret and figure out what you learned yesterday. Specifically, you had to look at the mountain pine beetle phenology and decide which of these facts about the beetles were most important or most closely related to this unique situation this year, where something having to do with the temperature is changing the relationship between the beetles and these mountain pines. Now, all of these are important. You learn a little bit about that relationship when it talks about how the adult beetles lay their eggs inside the phloem, and then the larvae move horizontally through the xylem. And as the larvae consume the xylem and phloem, they're basically destroying the tree's ability to move water from its root system up into its branches and its needles. And this is why we see those needles turning brown, because yes, they're experiencing drought more frequently, but even if they weren't, the trees would not be able to move water into their needles, because the mechanism, the actual systems that the tree uses to transport the fluid from the roots to the needles has been consumed. It's been eaten by these broods of beetles. And if I had to narrow it down to a few of those statements, 1 through 12, that were really important as they regard to temperature, it might be number 8. If weather gets colder earlier than normal in the fall, larvae will not have time to produce the chemicals that act like antifreeze, and so they may die. Well, it's not getting colder earlier. In fact, it's staying warmer later. And so the larvae do have plenty of time to produce the chemicals that act like antifreeze. And so because our winters aren't getting cold as quickly, and they're not getting as cold as they used to, more of these larvae are surviving. Not only that, but the summer season is longer. They have more time in the summer to reproduce, because spring is starting a little bit earlier and fall is extending a little bit later as the climate in this region changes. And with that longer growing season, now the mountain pine beetle doesn't just have time for one complete life cycle from adult to larva. Now they have time for 2. The adults lay the eggs in early spring, and they eventually become larvae and adults in midsummer, and then there's still time to lay a second clutch of eggs, which will mature by the time the winter season arrives. And so you see this exponential increase in the population of these pine beetles that are damaging the trees. And when the population of the pine beetles increases exponentially, so too does their ability to harm these trees and this ecosystem. So you chose those important statements out of here and hopefully reached those same conclusions. And then you made a claim which was supported by evidence, and then you explained your rationale or your reasoning for why the evidence supports your claim. Now today, since you've already done all that hard work, all you have to do is communicate those findings to your peers, to me, and to the world at large. You know, the more everyone understands this problem, I think the easier it will be to solve it and to fight it. So first, review your evidence. Make sure you have strong evidence. Make sure you are including disconfirming evidence as you communicate your findings. And the way that they want you to do it after you watch this video, see if your findings corroborate with the other scientists, is to create, sorry, one second. Still got the bells for some reason. Is to write a one-act play where you explain what's killing the lodgepole pine trees and why it's happening at a faster rate than we've ever seen in the past. This section 18 right here explains that you should use steps 10 through 17 to support your argument. So, you know, go back, look through your notes, find all that evidence that you worked hard to collect, and then use personification. That's where you imbue non-human objects with human-like traits in order to create characters from this ecosystem. For example, the lodgepole pine tree might be visiting a doctor. It may describe its symptoms, the evidence that you observed. Its doctor may offer a diagnosis, the cause your evidence points to, and why it is happening, the reasons it's so much worse now compared with the historical past. Be creative, and you can use this script template to help, which is right here. Describe your characters in your scene. Who are they? Describe the setting. Where are they? What's going on? And then here's your back and forth between your characters. I think the really important thing, and to get full credit for this, is you must include the evidence you observed, the cause your evidence points to, and here's a big one, the reasons it's so much worse now compared to the past. If you include in your one-act play those three things, you're going to get 100% on this. Also, I wanted to say that eventually I would like to collect this whole packet from you guys so that I can just review everyone's materials and make sure all your grades are correct in the grade book. So, again, thanks for making it through the first week, and write a good play. We'll see you guys soon, and have a good weekend. Take care.